for the Friday noon Torah thing through Wilshire Boulevard Temple. Sunday evening, December 18th. Sunday, December 18th is Hanukkah, first night of Hanukkah. I just finished, I do every other week a teaching session with my young cousin in Israel. He's getting to be a bar mitzvah. I am now his long distance bar mitzvah teacher. And so I was talking with this young Israeli kid about Hanukkah. And I said to him, well, tell me, why do we light the candles? Which way do we go, from left to right or right to left? And, an Israeli kid in the middle of the Jewish state, he said, well, it's either left to right or right to left. And that really was sad. Okay. And then I said,
left to right.
Why do we light candles at all? He said, because of the oil lasting. It was a miracle. So I said to him, well, do you believe in the miracle? No. Well, we had I'm just very, very fortunate that he's not Haredi, because I think he would have real trouble with me. Are
you teaching him the chanting also?
Did I give him what?
Are you teaching him the chanting?
Chanting?
Yes.
Well, since you asked, Steve, I did sing Chanukah, Chanukah, Chag Yafeh Kol Kach. And so now I have been mocked in several countries for my singing ability, which
it's better than mine.
Like a candy.
Yeah. And by the way, by the time the meeting ended up, Risa, they're going to have latkes for dinner tonight. They just got the juices started flowing. Okay. Cindy, what's up within the world of sisterhood?
I'm going to let Susie talk about it because she's our chair, but signups for our December 22nd should be out in the weekly Monday and Wednesday. So you need a reservation, although it's free to attend. Susie?
6 o'clock, December 22nd, Froman's Restaurant on Wilshire. I think it's on Wilshire and 18th on the south side of the street. And you can't miss it. There's parking in the front and the back. It's no host, and everybody is welcome. We hope you come, but you need to have a reservation so I can tell them how many people, how many tables we need. And Rabbi Nanas is going to be helping us with some prayers and some songs, and it should be a really, really lovely evening. Please do register so we know that you're coming, okay?
Susie, Friday's the 23rd, not the 22nd.
It's on the
Not
22nd
Friday.
on Thursday.
It's not Shabbat. That's what
okay.
everybody needs to know. It's not Shabbat, which makes it even easier for those of us that really go to synagogue every Friday night. This one will not be Friday night. It will be Thursday night. So
Okay. And Cindy, anything else in terms of your programming? I have a note from Jim Ruxin. Could one of you, Stanley, Risa, Mona, or Steve,
I'll do it if you want.
Please mention that the film discussion tonight is being replaced by the special live event, so nothing tonight, at the Lumiere Cinema, old Lamela Music Hall at Wilshire and Doheny. Tomorrow, Sunday at 2 p.m. Tomorrow, Sunday, 2 p.m., feature documentary about the Jewish partisans who fought from the forests of Eastern Europe against the Nazi military. And then he says that they're having a very complicated situation at home. Okay.
The movie is Four Winters, and there is a discussion that Jim is leading after the movie.
and
I'm
there's
going.
there's also a fee. I believe it's $11.
Yeah, it's $11. How
Ah,
you feeling, Susie?
I didn't know that. Okay, so it's an $11 to go to the Lamela to see the movie Okay. Okay, fine. That's terrific. Any, I think those are the announcements. And I'd just like to check in and see where we are. Paul's here. Karen is here.
May I say something, Rabbi?
Please.
All right, close up and try again, and if I can help you, let me know.
Okay.
Bye.
I made chocolate latkes with almonds for the children. They loved it with M&M's sprinkled. It was an original recipe
Fabulous.
with real almonds, because most you say raises almonds. I love that.
Latkes are supposed to have knuckle blood.
Okay.
If it
I
doesn't,
made
have,
the traditional too, but they loved it.
yeah, if it doesn't have knuckle blood, it isn't really latkes. But that's
But a dear lady, the Holocaust survivor, won the money, and I'm glad she did. She deserved it.
okay. Anything else going on in anybody's life? Checking in. Marina's with us. Zax is with us. Hi, Zax. Okay, we're good. Very good. We're going to Genesis 33:1 in the Plout 221 in the Women's Reformed Judaism Commentary 188. So 221 in the Plout, 188 in the Women's Commentary, Genesis 33:1. Okay, so here we are. Someone want to read 31:1 to 31:3? I'll just read it. Anyone want to read that? Okay, I see Doris. Yes, please. You have to unmute, Doris, otherwise the reading doesn't count. Good. Okay.
Apologize, that's right. Looking up, Jacob saw Esau coming accompanied by I've got it all underlined here, 400 men. He divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maids, putting the maids and their children first, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph last. He himself went on ahead and bowed low to the ground 7 times until he was near his brother.
Okay, here we go. So we got the story, right? After the night wrestling event between Jacob and the night wrestler, whoever he was, and the name change Jacob Israel, we now find the moment when Jacob is going to confront Esau. And you have to know, just as a little bit of background, that the Torah is notoriously not consistent about when Jacob is called Jacob and when Jacob is called Israel, and that will be true throughout the Torah. And scholars have a whole bunch of reasons about why that is and how that happens. But the point is, he never becomes Israel only. He is sometimes Israel, sometimes Jacob. And the rabbis love that fact because it points to the reality that no matter how we grow in life, we don't separate from the person we were. Okay? We may evolve and change and, whatever. But you don't discard the person you were. You are always that person. Plus, point being, Jacob is always Jacob, even when he's Israel. Okay? So that's how the rabbis handle it. Literally, we have other questions as to whether there are Jacob strands and Israel strands in the book of Genesis, especially. And that's a matter of debate, Steve.
Could any of it have to do with the fact that in the kingdom of Judah, they would not want to refer to Jacob as Israel because that was the competing kingdom?
That represents, Steve, a fine question. And yes, that's on the table. I'm not going to be able to go past that. It's on the table. Israel is not a beloved name. Judah is obviously the chosen name, and it's hard. Steve, we just don't have clarity. There's no agreement among scholars as to why once Jacob becomes Israel, why he isn't simply referred to as Israel, and it just is that way. Now, I picked this up from the commentator Sforno, Sforno. Sforno is the commentator I make reference to once in a while. He lived around 1500, so he's older than I am. Sforno looks at 33:1-7. He's Italian commentator, and he's an excellent commentator. That the big lesson in this story, only those Jews who debase themselves and give gifts to Goyim can survive. Did you hear this? I will give the exact quote.
I heard what you said.
Pardon?
Oh, I heard what you said about giving gifts to Goyim. Is that what you said?
Only those Jews who debase themselves, crawl on the ground, and give gifts to Goyim can survive. That's a teaching from Sforno from the 1500s in Italy. And trust me, it's a reflection of the world in which he lived. That's how he understood truth. And I'm going to give a quote. It is of great concern for us. Sforno is talking about the us of his period. It is of great concern to us, seeing that we live among the descendants of Esau, people who are arrogant and consider themselves invincible. The anger and the hatred that Sforno feels comes right out in his Torah commentary. That's pretty amazing. Yaakov's conduct vis-a-vis Esau teaches that the only way to escape the sword of Esau is through self-degradation and gifts. Any comments? That from Sforno, and by the way, it's not found in Rashi or in Ibn Ezra's, Ramban, it's not there. This is a 16th century Italian Jewish commentator. What do you take away from this? Any thoughts? Okay, I see Steve.
Rabbi, would you repeat what you just said about what you just said to ask us a question? Because I had to get my Post-its.
I don't want to read the whole thing through again, but
Yeah.
the only way to escape the sword of Esau is through self-degradation and gifts. Steve? And then
Well, first of all, this is shortly after the Inquisition, and being anywhere was dangerous. And I think he's just pointing to a reality that in many places at many times through history is somewhat true. And we hope that we get beyond that here and elsewhere. And I think the state of Israel is a step in the right direction. I worry about where we are today in this country. But even in Russia, we had the conversos. You have all kinds of people that illustrate the things that Jewish people have done to ensure that we survive.
Howard?
So I just wondering, when he says we were among the descendants of Esau, does he mean Christians?
Yes. Esau is typically Rome. But then Esau expands the term to include all of them, the acher, the other. And that would certainly mean the Christian world.
Keep it
Okay.
on Gentile cycle, right, with the washing machine.
Okay, then I saw, let's see, Rebecca, yes, please.
God bless everybody.
Just respect for other religions and other people is what comes to my mind.
Disrespect,
Respect, be respectful of other religions and other people, other cultures.
Mhm. Mhm.
okay, any other comments? Any other
Respect
com-
for women and seniors, respect for women and seniors and elderly people is so important.
Donna?
Well, to me, it's not about being respectful to other communities. It's about the fact that we've been forced to be ghettoized and degrade ourselves. And it sounds like bribes are what he's talking about to get by in a non-Jewish world. It's kind of a very angry, bitter statement.
It brings to mind for me, and I'm no specialist in this, but I've heard that when dogs are fighting seriously fighting, the losing animal flips over on his back and exposes his throat. And you do that so that you can survive. Mara or Harvey?
My problem with this is that if, as Jews, we choose to behave this way, then we do not behave as Jews. If our answer to those who would demean us is to turn our backs on what Torah tells us in terms of behavior, then we've given up our religion.
Wow.
Any other comments?
Yes, sir, about being mistreated.
Wait, Donna, we are
What you're
waiting.
talking about. sir.
Wait, we're waiting to be called on,
Oh,
okay?
yes, sir.
Please,
Sorry,
please,
man.
let's do that. Okay, Harv, you haven't spoken.
Yeah, I would also point out that this behavior did not work during the Shoah. And so if you take just what rabbis say on face value, I don't think you end up in the right place.
There are people, Harv, and I count myself among them, that look back on the survival strategies of the Jewish people and say that they were at least moderately effective until they stopped being effective.
That is right.
Yeah.
Until they stopped. Okay, let's see. I did call on Natalie. Yes, Shapiro. Natalie.
Well, I think until Israel became a state, then maybe things changed for American Jews. But I know even for myself, when I have been in all Gentile situations, I do not behave exactly like I do when I'm with all Jews. I don't make jokes as quickly. I may not be as verbal as I normally like to be. And when you're talking about survival, this is what we're talking about. This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing when we're talking about survival. We're not talking about where many of us may feel very comfortable in our situations now. But when you live in an area where there's a lot of anti-Semitism, when you've lived in the histories that we've gone through, there are very good reasons why people behave the way they did that may not sound very brave now. And as soon as Israel became a state, a country, then the Jews all over the world had more of an ability to be more like themselves. If you don't like me, too bad. That's what I do believe.
Okay, Marina, please.
Rabbi, you quoted, as Steve pointed out, the scholar of post-Inquisition time. But since then, there was the Age of Enlightenment, when France gave rights to Jews. There were different trends throughout Europe, elevating the status of Jews in different countries. And I don't know if we can take that quote to measure now, as everybody was mentioning the existence of the State of Israel, but also the position of Jews in modern society, where in non-Jewish states, the Jews hold positions of power.
Larry?
Well, first, I think it's rare that I find myself agreeing with Natalie, but I do in this instance. I think it is hard to judge what people do in order to survive, particularly when we're a little bit outside of their context. And I think about what Jews in America do today to survive and thrive. And there's a time to fight. There's a time to run and hide. There's a time to be defensive and present. I think it is hard to see, even in the current circumstance, whether our current approach to surviving in America is the right one, or how would you know when it's no longer the right one?
Okay, thank you. I see, first of all, Fern, Shabbat Shalom, hi. Panina.
All right. I did a paper about Jews in exile, and I had to go through a lot of pages from the Bible and history. And I looked into the Torah explanation by Don Yitzhak Abarbanel, and he wrote there that during his time, when he was the treasurer for Isabella and Ferdinand, and when they were killed, he was there. When everybody was exiled, and he was left behind because he was the treasurer. Then there was another king that rose up to power there, and his life was already in danger. He fled and he settled himself in Italy. Italy was divided at that time into all kinds of sections, and every section had a different, how would you call it? Somebody who preside over it, not Jewish, of course. So there were 700 Jews, they were kidnapped for ransom. And Don Yitzhak Abarbanel gathered people from his community, and they collected the money, and they saved those 700 people. So in order to save a life, I think it's sometimes necessary to bribe these people to save those lives. And I think this is where Sarna is coming from. This was the reality. So you cannot put yourself in few hundred years ago into the reality of what was going on then. There is no way that you can compare anything that you feel now to what was going on there.
I have
being tortured
I have a number
Christian.
I have a number of responses, and
so this is what the Sarna came from, because of the reality of having to actually pay money to save 700 people.
Penina, thank you. One of the things that comes to mind when you say that is the basketball player who was redeemed. And I'm not going to get into that argument, but boy, over the New York Times front page today, the battle over the response to that is huge.
Okay, so we're lucky.
So it's there, but then something else occurred to me. When people refer to the Jewish community as privileged and put us in the category of being privileged people, and I look at what Sforno wrote, what Penina mentioned about Abarbanel and the redeeming of kidnapped Jews, there's a lot of history there. And we should be wary of accepting a narrative which I don't believe is true.
What's not true?
We do not exist among the privileged. We carry a burden which is pretty serious.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And okay, now I see Steve and I see Donna. Yes, Steve.
I just have one quick comment, and that is we're not 100% blameless for being in this situation, partly because of our values. And as you point out, everything is about separation, and Jews as a group, especially historically, have set up a number of rules to govern themselves, which isolate them from society at large. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I believe that to be a contributing factor, and it makes it harder to just become an invisible part of a foreign society.
Yeah, if being invisible is the goal, Jews don't survive. If being invisible is the goal. By the way, there was an interview this week by a French broadcaster of an Israeli Jew who was visiting France. And in the interview, the Israeli Jew showed up wearing a kippah. And the French commentator, this is not anti-Semitism, raised the question, why are you so anxious to display your Jewish religion in public? And I was reminded of a weird aspect of French culture, which, boy, I don't remember the exact term, forgive me, laification, L-A-I, laification, something like that, in which being a Jew in your home is great, but in public, everyone is a secular French person. And for that person, which is why the French can outlaw the public wearing of the burqa or other Muslim dress and say to Jews, when you wear a kippah in public, you are violating the cultural norms of our country. Very interesting. And the threat of invisibility. I want to move on to the next issue. Let me just do, Larry, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, but let's move on.
Okay, Donna, quick point.
I would just want to comment on French resistance and if they fought the Nazis, but I want to talk about what Donna Shapiro said about us, having to defend ourselves. And I found a situation last night, and Donna and Adele's can take care of it, and Esther, but oh my gosh, out of nowhere, out of the shadows, after the kids left, something happened. And I was just waiting, admiring the candles and getting ready to leave. And this guy starts complaining to me about, she said only 15 tables. I said, Bonnie, she's a senior and she has to coordinate all this. She has a lot on her plate. Just go with the flow. And they start screaming at me. So I reported, but it was like, I was like, who is this guy? And he's just so ungrateful for a job. Hopefully he won't have one very long.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, now we're going to go on, but it all started with the Sforno comment. How do we survive? Jacob is bringing a load of gifts to buy the friendship of Esau and to preserve life. And so he bows down to the ground. Let's go on. Verse 4, Esau, though, ran to meet him, embraced him, fell on his neck and kissed him, and they burst into tears. Those of you who want to look at the Hebrew in their Bible, this is in every Bible, no matter which one you have. If you look at verse 4, Genesis 33, please look at it. Do you see it? You see it there? Cindy, what do you see?
There's one word that's lighter than all the rest.
Right, and does it have little dots or thingies?
Well, another word has dots over every letter.
Correct. Now, the one that's lighter is simply an alternative reading. And what you have is that light word and the next word are identical. And it's going to be one or the other. Okay? And the dark Hebrew is the accepted version. The light Hebrew is the alternative. That's fun. That's fine. But the dotted thing, do you see it? Underneath at the bottom, it explains. I love this explanation. It is so cool. All right? A little dot. Why Vayishakehu? Why all those dots on top of it? And we get a complete explanation, not translated, only in the Hebrew at the bottom of page 222. And it says, one of the 10 places in the Torah when they have extra dots on a letter. That's it. That's the explanation. Okay, that takes us nowhere. But they point out there are 10 places. The rabbis love this situation. So what does it happen here? Esau runs, Vayaratz, normal, Likrato, ran toward him, Vayachapkehu, and he embraced him, gave him chibukim, or hugs. He gave him a hug. Vayipol tzavarav, and he fell on his neck. Vayishakehu, and he kissed him. And they wept. The rabbis don't like Esau. They're not going to let this sit. Okay? So what do they have here? The dots are there, and this would be of great help if the gentleman who lost the senatorial campaign in Georgia had won it, because here it speaks about vampiric behavior. Listen, Esau came not to kiss Jacob, but to bite him in the neck.
Whoa.
So now we're not saying that Esau was really a vampire, but we are saying that he fell on his neck oh, this looks like a good gesture from Esau. No, Esau be evil. And so we can't give him credit for trying to reconcile. So what was he doing falling on his neck? He wanted to bite him on his neck. Wait. But a miracle. I'm reading the rabbinic commentary here. Forgive me. I don't make this. I do make it up. But this time, I'm not making it up. But our ancestor Jacob's neck became like marble as a miracle. So Esau falls on Jacob's neck to bite him, presumably to drink. Jacob's neck, as a miracle, turns into marble. That explains, the rabbis say, why vayifku, the last word in the sentence. Why? They wept. Jacob wept because his neck had turned to marble, and Esau wept because he tried to bite marble and hurt his teeth.
Couple of teeth.
I am only reporting what's in the tradition. So
that's a stretch.
Oh, for the first time, Steve. That's the first time. That one's a stretch. Okay. So Esau's neck turns, no, Jacob's neck turns to marble. Esau falls upon him vampire style to bite him in the neck and bites marble. Gewalt, my teeth. And so Esau is crying because of his teeth. Jacob is crying because of his neck being made into marble. And don't be confused by what looks like a brotherly reconciliation, because the rabbis want nothing to do with Esau. Okay? This is why we study. This is why we do this. Ibn Ezra comes right out and talks to the Chevra Torah in 2022. He's talking directly to us when he says, forgive the sarcasm, it's Ibn Ezra's. For those newly weaned, you can make many midrashim about the dots. Isn't that rude? For those infants among us, for those newly weaned, you can make many midrashim about the dots. But I tell you, Esau did not intend to kill Jacob. Ibn Ezra is the only one who comes out and says Esau did not intend to kill Jacob. The others not good. Okay, I just thought that you would be interested in that. Effie?
Yes, my comment says, Rabbi Simon ben Yoha said, it is a tradition well known that Esau hated Jacob. However, his compassion was moved at that moment and he kissed him wholeheartedly.
Okay, so there we have a good view of what was happening there. We have to be careful about how we categorize the characters in Torah. Esau is the enemy. Esau is the enemy. But in rabbinic tradition, it is reasonable to say that Esau was screwed by his brother. Okay? He was really mistreated by his brother. And then to go and make Esau just a hater of Jacob, and then to make Esau the symbol of all those nations, especially Rome, who hate the Jews, is, I think, a misplaying of what's going on here. But it is almost universal, except for the one that was just read. There are some who have nicer things. Larry.
Yeah, that interpretation also seems inconsistent with the rest of the story, where Esau seems to be acting very kindly towards his brother after the meeting. Now, maybe he went with evil intent and had a change of heart when he saw his brother, but the notion that Esau is intending to do harm to his brother seems inconsistent. And it seems a lot more of a reflection, I think, of the later reunification of Joseph with his brothers in Israel. The same sort of thing, being distrustful of the brothers and then pleased to see them.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm just gonna go quickly to back up what you're saying to chapter 35, verses 28 and 29. You don't have to go there. I'll read it. It's the end of the Isaac story. Isaac, the father of Jacob and Esau. The years of Isaac's life came to 180. Isaac then breathed his last and died. He was gathered to his people, old and full of years, and his sons, Esau and Jacob, buried him. It's the last part, Larry, that I want to use to back up what you're saying. Esau and Jacob. First of all, interesting that the Torah would put Esau's name first. When I talk about them, I talk about Jacob and Esau, Jacob and Esau, Jacob and Esau. The Torah here puts Esau, the firstborn, first. And when Isaac died, Esau and Jacob came together to show respect and to bury their father. But that's a big deal.
I want to say something too.
Okay, please, Natalie.
Well, you look at this story and you're assuming that Jacob had the better life of the two. But there's another question. I think we even discussed this a few years ago. Maybe Esau's life, maybe the way he felt about his life was much better than what Jacob felt about his life. You know, we read this and we think because Esau went off and did what he felt natural to do. He fought, he played, he had 1 million women, he had this big army behind him. He's not a shrinking violet when the two of them meet at all. So you have to look at it from that way also, in terms of whether he's willing now to make friends with his brother. He may feel he had the better of the deal.
You know, Natalie, as I mentioned even last week, I'm still learning. There's still so much I don't understand. And I was among the Esau bashers for the first 82 years of my life. That's a pretty long commitment to being an Esau basher. And when Tamara repeated Esau's line to Isaac, when Esau said to his father, "Dad, you only have one blessing. There is nothing left for me." I wasn't paying enough attention to that. That was a horrible moment for Esau, a horrible moment. And he suffered great loss. Going up to this to say, look, Esau remains in history as an evil character. But as students of Torah, we really have to be more open to what the Torah actually is saying and the human aspect of what's going on. I agree with you totally. Natalie, I think I agree with you totally. Okay, first Cindy, then Nina.
Did Ishmael and Isaac get back together to bury Abraham?
Yes,
So this is kind of a repetition of that.
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
May I ask a question?
It is, wait 1 second. It is in the best part of the dysfunctional stories in Genesis. Folks, the families still struggled to get back together with all of the dysfunction. Penina, then Donna.
All right. The whole thing didn't happen in a bubble. There was, I mentioned it before. I had a book from a person that told the story from archaeological point of view. And there was a big influence of the Egyptian culture in what was going on in Israel at the time. And the culture was to sacrifice the firstborn to the gods. And when Jacob comes to Esau and he tells him about that, Esau was relieved. He says, my life would be short. It's short, gonna be short. Why would he say that? Because according to the whole idea that he followed later on the ways of the non-Jewish people, he was afraid that this is what's going to happen to him, because Abraham also attempted to do this with Isaac, because while cheating, because Ishmael was the first one, and sacrificed them to the gods. So literally, Esau was relieved when Jacob told him to do it. And the mother encouraged it, hoping that Jacob, because followed more the ways of the gods, is going to be, the one God is going to be saved anyhow.
Okay, Penina,
the fact was that he was relieved. And when he saw Jacob,
we're going to stop there.
He greeted him as a brother, and he wasn't an enemy.
Penina, we're going to stop there. What we have is a beautiful midrash. What you describe is midrash. I love midrash. That's good. It's part of the background of how we should understand it. I see Joy up there, please. You're up there on my screen, Joy. You're right over there. Okay.
So for me, I see a lot of parallels between this portion and also the Purim story, where you have someone two people who've undergone a name change. One of them has had her name sort of permanently stated that way thereafter. You have two people who are facing some sort of need to respond to saving either their life or the life of their families and the people that they're responsible for. But the reactions, especially in terms of the quote we heard earlier, are different. So you have Jacob, who has sort of gifted his way and prostrated in an attempt to be saved. And then you have another person who is self-sacrificial and results in an opportunity for each person that she's responsible for to bear arms to sort of defend themselves. And so I guess my question would be, if any, what conclusion can we draw about personal responsibility in terms of how we choose to respond to unwelcome surroundings?
Well, it's easy. I'm going to have to say, sorry, I only have 5 minutes left, and I'm not going to deal with that because there's no time. It's a great question. It's a great question. By the way, Joy, also to fit in with what is true about the Hanukkah story. The Hanukkah story is told as a revolt against Syrian oppression. That's not accurate.
Greek.
What's accurate is the Syrians wanted to culturally impact and not kill.
It's the
They
Greeks.
wanted to change the culture of the Jewish people, and there was a powerful reaction against that. But to follow your link, at the same time, there was a civil war between the ultra-traditionalists, the Maccabees,
And the Greeks.
and those who wanted to get along in the world, the so-called Hellenizers.
Because I was just gonna say also, because in the beginning, when we were talking about how he was called Jacob and Israel just interchangeably the whole time, there are a lot of other people who had gone through a name change that stuck with the new name sort of throughout. And that to me kind of, and I appreciate the understanding of having who we were reflecting in who we end up being. You can't really shake the past. But I think that at least in the Bible, we've seen some instances of people who went on to be, I mean, Abraham and Sarah, they, for example, they stuck with the new names and they reflected the new identities that were kind of ascribed to them that they welcomed. So I guess my question is still back to that of just, even though he's a great guy and he's, patriarchal and we love him, at what point can we maybe not scrutinize, but really look at Jacob's character as like a person?
Okay, the answer is we certainly can. We certainly can. And that's what we've been trying to do a little bit today. And again, the stories of Genesis are stories of growth, not just of dysfunction. And you just moved down here and I lost you. You're over there. And we need to study the characters. But the hope also is they change, we can change. They grow, we can grow. Whether it's accompanied by a name change or not, the hope that there is space to grow is there. And that's why we keep reading Genesis forever, because that's there. We're going to have to end here. Donna, quick one-liner. What can I do with you? You're muted.
Oh, thank you, Rabbi. Thank you for everything. Talking about name changes and inheritance, and when in Israel are women going to get their dowries and get treated just like the firstborn son? I have to change that myself, I guess. I'm serious.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Well, having been happily married so far, a few decades, I would say that in certain households, people worry less about what they bring into the marriage than what they can fabricate so they can bring out more. I remember when our first grandchild was born, and I was told with each subsequent grandchild that there's a tradition, don't cover your face, that there's a tradition that grandmothers get a major gift with each grandchild.
I love it.
I never researched that, but I have been obedient to the declared custom, and I want to just leave it there. And you can go and look at the carpet in our living room or some of her jewelry. She didn't need a dowry. it worked out really well over the years.
Yeah, my grandpa was smart. Zadie was smart. He saved the best for last till now. Just contacted me. I didn't know till my sister told me his name was Mayor, and then I found out he contacted me. But my name was changed 10 days after my birth. Then I had 2 social security cards. I'm still finding out about who I am.
Yeah, well, some of us,
It's good news.
I don't know, some of us are still trying to find out who we are. And you know, the problem is that our particular search is probably boring to everybody else, but I am interested in finding out who I am, and no one else. All right, we're going to do Kaddish. It's
I'm
good to be
interested.
with everybody, and we have the dates coming up. And thank you, Barbara. I didn't even say hello to you, but I did see you. Hi. Okay. I got to do that. Okay. Mentioning those who have passed away during the past month: Norma Bubar, Charles Dolgener, Judy Eder, Paul Fisher, Linda Gash, Robert Katska, Ezra Cohen, Irene Saltzman, Carolyn Scher, Daisy Schott, Moshe Jeffrey Shopson, Norman Siegel, Elaine Wexler, Jacqueline Weinberg, Sydney Weinberg. And yahrzeits that have occurred during the past week: Abe Alex, Ruth Becker, Aaron Bender, Jacob Burlfine, Dennis Allen Blake, Gail Brewer, Mary Brown, Alexandra Reza Book, Molly Birkin, Eugene Klaus, Jeanette Richards Kaufman, Bud Cohn, Sheldon Cohn, Michael Coleman, Priscilla Crombie, Etta Copeland Daniels, Harry Davis, Alvin Dishler, John Dolgener, Hart Drayman, Helen Dresser, Sarah Drach, Lawrence Dubinsky, Evelyn Fern, Elena Ferrari, Robert Fink, Harriet Freund, Ulrich First, Meyer Gerson, Ann Gilbert, Leonard Goldberg, May Goldberg, Herbert Goldmark, Florence Goldstein, Sandy Gordon, Howard Gottfried, Nathan Greenberg, Philip Grosser, Toba Hakim, Harry Theodore Holmberg, Gertrude Hutchinson, George Jacobs, Max Jaffe, Lottie Kahn, Rose Kaufman, Caesar Kirsten, Newton King, Estelle King, Herman Klein, Sally Kleinbard, Susan Klug, Alex Coper, Elsie Cosman, Wendy Kramer, Philly Krevin, Myron Lester, Jack Lewis, Lillian Lynch, Erna Lovis, Tilly Bisky, Jules Lustig, Wesley McDuxton, Melvin Mallet, Gertrude Marantz, Herman Markowitz, Rita Medway, Sylvia Miller, David Millett, Joseph Mitchell, William Motel, Frank Nadich, Dorothy Nuger, Ray's Olgwin, Carol Jean Osterwald, George Pennis Jr., Eliyahu Penazar, Mary Prell, Harry Prince, Harriet Reed, Sophia Reichwald, Joan Rex, Tilly Rolnick, Elizabeth Rubenstein, Burton Sanders, Betty Skadron, Werner Schott, Shirley Schwartz, Morton Seidel, Goldie Schaefer, Carl Shapiro, Robert Slengerup, Dorothy Slifkin, Elaine Small, Evelyn Smason, Janet Smith, Cheryl Spivak, Jack Stoach, Penelope Summers, Rose Taylor, Benjamin Touche, Benito Vollner, Marshall Wagman, Martin Webster, Samuel Witz, Sidney Wool, Gerald Young. I apologize for names I have misspelled. If names have been omitted, please feel free to mention them aloud now or to keep those names in your hearts.
You said Moshe's name perfect.
We remember as well all those who died in defense of the United States, all those who died in defense of the state of Israel, those who died through senseless acts of terror, and those for whom there is no one to say Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash v'mei rabbah v'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman karim, v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehi shmei Rab,
Abba, more.
v'olam li'olmei, Maya,
Maya.
Yitbarach, Shabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalal, Shemei Kudisha, Brichu, Ela min kol birch lata v'shirata, V'ata v'nechamata, Ta'amiran, V'alma, V'yim, Amen. Hey, Shlomo Rama, in Shemaya, L'chaim, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, Amen. Oseh Shalom, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, Amen. May God, who makes peace in the high places, make peace in our hearts, make peace in our homes, make peace in the household of Israel, make peace among all the families and nations of earth. And let us say,
Amen.
Amen.
Love you.
Time is now.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
I
shalom.
love you guys.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Tell Rita hello wherever she's at.
Shabbat
Yeah.
shalom.
Bye, shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Have a great day.
Thank
Be
you.